Today, I'm going to actually chat a little bit about the human aspect of your business. You guys and girls, as general contractors, or even if you are subcontractors, you're not a robot. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. Welcome to you if you're in YouTube land. My name's Max. I'm the CEO of Smith & Sons here in Canada. Look, as usual, want to bring you some value. Maybe this one might be a quick one, but we'll see how it goes. Be sure to like and share and subscribe and tick the bell and all that wonderful stuff as well, to make sure you catch up with us. We regularly put one of these out once a week. We do it. And if you've got any questions about, business and construction and, whatever else you might, that's concerning to business development in the building sector, you can reach me at max@businessforbuilders.ca. So today, true to form, want to sort of give you something you can literally be driving down the road in and jump out of your truck when you get there and sort of implement straight away, or certainly at least have a think about tonight and really just go through your own processes and improve your business. We're all about helping general contractors succeed, develop high-performance businesses. And today I'm going to actually chat a little bit about the human aspect of your business. And, basically, you guys and girls, as general contractors, even if you are subcontractors, you're not a robot. And that's probably going to be the title of this piece, is you're not a freaking robot. You're somebody that, is doing the best. You enjoy what you do. You're out there wanting to make clients happy. You want to build a great team around you. You want to have good relationships with suppliers and subcontractors. And of course, you want to make money and enjoy life and do everything that you want to do using the dividends that are paid to you as a business owner. That is the object of a business, just by the way. You're going to take the risk, invest the time, invest the money, then you're expecting a return that's going to give you some quality of life. That's essentially why you're doing it. You're taking a risk, and you should be rewarded. However, the challenges that you face as a general contractor are significant and on multiple levels. And I think that, what we've got to understand is we've talked about it before, whereby we know that we get trained. I was trained as a carpenter, did my apprenticeship, spent 20 years framing. And so we get trained in the art of carpentry. Let's say that's what I did. But in that whole process, very, very, very small percentage, only a very small slither of information was ever shared with me, compared to the amount of information and training that I got as a carpenter, percentage-wise, it was probably 1% or less as it relates to money management, or financial management, business management, human resource management, project management, those sorts of things. We didn't really get, we didn't double down on those subjects. So today, what I want to do is just quickly chat about the human aspect of your business. I want to chat about you. You are not a robot. You are not a machine. You have thoughts and you have feelings and you have emotions. And there's things that make you happy and there's things that make you not so happy. And it really does affect you as a human. It affects you as an operator. It affects you, in your, part of your obligations in daily life as it relates to the business and, those people that you have business arrangements with. And so, I want to chat about, that, but I really just want to shed some light on some of the things that can place pressure on you, that will place pressure on you, and the things that, individually might seem fairly harmless, right? But when there's a cumulative effect, this is where the game starts to get ridiculously challenging. And there's, you've got to understand, you've got to be able to feel when that pressure comes on you and how to mitigate that pressure. And so really what I'm wanting to chat with you guys and gals about today is to protect yourself. Have a level of self-awareness where you can interpret your emotions and understand what things in your business are really, leaning on you hard, and then understanding how it is that you can mitigate some of that pressure. And so, I think this is something that I've never talked about before. And so, I really am looking forward to some engagement, with my audience on this. And, certainly trying to sort of give any kind of support and help that we can from afar. But certainly, you really need to execute within your ecosystem, and, you need to work your business processes to ensure that you are relieving yourself of some of that pressure. Because when your emotion goes up, which essentially what happens when you're under pressure in the building game, when your emotions go up, your ability to make good decisions goes down. And that's a fact. So you've got to be very aware of when you feel the pressure coming on you as a building operator or as a general contractor, and then recognizing perhaps where you're not really hitting the mark in your decision-making process. So look, I'm going to run through a list of subjects that I think individually are fairly benign, but cumulatively, if there is a buildup of pressure in all these departments, and in some cases you are motivated, let's say, to get jobs happening, and then all of a sudden you haven't orchestrated or organized trades or materials in accordance with the building process because you've not had both eyes on the game or on the ball, and you're going to start costing yourself money. So what happens is you can potentially get into a what I would call a bit of a death spiral within the business where everything starts to compound in a negative fashion. And we want to make sure that you're looked after. You've got obligations to family, friends, loved ones, other businesses, clients. You really want to make sure that you stay in control of what your business is doing, and that essentially that you control the business doesn't control you. So let's get cracking. So look, estimating. Now, I don't care whether really you're doing fixed price quotes or you're doing cost plus. At the end of the day, your ability to estimate well, and I've said this before, that profit is a natural byproduct of good estimating. So you need to be aware, of your own estimating capabilities. You need to maybe have a systemized approach to estimating. You need to have a very good process as far as RFQs go, requests for quotations from subcontractors and suppliers. You need to have what I would call estimating checklists to make sure that as you go through developing an initial estimate that you're not leaving things out. You've got to be able to interpret blueprints and plans coherently, competently, and accurately. So, that in itself is a mission to do everything that I just said as it relates to estimating, the cost of goods sold, your labor and materials and deliveries and everything like that. To build that in, you've really got to be able to ascertain accurately every job. What is required and what's going to be needed there. So your ability to forecast is probably why I'm leading out with it, because it can be the root cause of any kind of challenges that you will face, whether they're project management challenges or financial challenges. It will all stem from an oversight in your estimating and quoting process. And so, that needs to be assessed. Like I said, checklists are always a good place to go. And I would find that often I will do, if I was to be, quoting a big project, I would often work on that thing over a period of days and weeks. Obviously, I'm not going to get chatting about, how we get paid to do, that feasibility study, which essentially is, what we do in the way of quoting, and we get, rewarded for that service, and we demonstrate value so clients are happy to transact at that level. But you've got to have a very systemized approach. I would almost compare an estimating checklist to that of a pre-flight, pre-takeoff pilot's checklist. You really want to get that right, because once you're in the air, things can get pretty intense pretty quickly. And I know that pilots need three things if there's something going wrong in the air. They need airspeed, they need altitude, and they need a bloody good idea. So, guys, I think that's very similar to in the building game when you get mid-flight and you're mid-construction and some shit hits the fan, with something, you need to be having the same sorts of ideas about, okay, in the event there is a failure, what do we do? So the next thing that's going to load you up with a lot of stress is your fixed expenses. This is the running costs, the overheads of the business. I'm not going to talk about percentage points based on revenue and things like that, but there is definitely a revenue. There's a percentage of revenue that is a minimum and a maximum for your fixed expenses. In other words, if you're spending too much on fixed expenses, you've got to cut that back. Maybe you're taking too much of the weight, and your fixed expenses are a low percentage of your revenue, and therefore you need to maybe invest in some humans or some systems or tools or all the above. But I think with fixed expenses, part of that can be, even though some of your guys on site right now could be deemed to be cost of goods sold. The problem that I see with that is and we may get into the next one, which is recruiting, but you've just got to make sure that you're not kidding yourself. Take a look at your profit and loss on a monthly basis. Take a look at your balance sheet on a monthly basis. What I would suggest is that your accountant, or you got to be your accountant, I would say, on a monthly basis, especially if you're doing big numbers, on a monthly basis, they give you a balance sheet, a profit and loss. They look at your payables and your receivables and things like that. And you really need to sit down with those for an hour with a coffee or a beer and just really consider where your business is up to, because some of those bottom lines are going to be quite revelational. If you haven't done that in the last little while, then you could be opening yourself up. And the reason that we do that is we want to look at where are some of the unnecessary costs, where are some areas where I can cut back, because every dollar that you cut back essentially creates more gross profit. Now, is that going to sort of take away from your effectiveness in the business? Because, okay, if I let that person go or I leave that subscription, go and I don't take that on, that means I've got to do it, manually or whatever. You've got to weigh up the pros and cons of doing that. And some things are not negotiable. You cannot live without them, and I get that. But depending on how far down you are, if your system, is determining that, or your accounting system is determining that you're in a pretty bad shape, you've really come up, whilst you've still got some altitude, whilst you've still got some airspeed, you need to come up with that bloody good idea, because if you don't, you will run out of altitude and you will, everything will suddenly stop. So that's important that we analyze our fixed expenses and we take, really into consideration what the metrics are saying to us about our business. That's always a keen thing. Recruiting, here's where I was going with this. Sometimes you can get so busy, you will take anybody that's warmed up to body temperature and breathing that presents you with a resume or a CV. And like I've said before, everybody's good on their first day in their resume. You need to have the ability to hire quickly, fire quickly. Give them a chance. If they tell you how good they are and their shit doesn't stink, awesome. Get on the tools. Let's go. But you've got to understand that you always have to be recruiting. And because the problem is that people change, and so they will perform really well for the first week, month, or whatever. I'm sure everybody that's watching this has probably had some exposure to that experience. And then after 2 months, it shits the bed, and all of a sudden it's like, where was the guy that I employed a month or so ago? And so, to save your business, let's say, you might be better off, and this is where I might talk a little bit about some strategy in the event that you're saying, well, I can't let these guys or girls go because, I need them because my workload is so great. I would say that the core problem of your business goes back to project management and probably estimating. And the problem is with these guys that pretend, and they're freaking pretenders, these chumps that will tell you how good they are. You drink the Kool-Aid and you believe everything that they say, and then you're so into a desperate situation you don't fire them. And unfortunately, that really just erodes your bottom line, and it really does contribute to some of your financial pressure that you might be facing. So what you're better off doing as an option, and I'm certainly not telling you what to do, but you may have to talk to however many clients you've got going on, and you might say, look, I've got to halve my current team because I've got to remove some inefficiencies, which is going to means I can only work on half my projects at this point, and I've got to start with the contract that I signed first and work my way down. You have to manage your business, and so we're going to get talking about managing client demands and things like that. But you've got to make sure that you make decisions whilst you have good airspeed and good altitude, because once you run out of both of those, you are just going to drop out of the sky. It's simple as that. It doesn't happen nicely. It just happens that way. So with your recruiting, you've always got to be recruiting. Just because someone is good in their first 90 days, even, and they've gone beyond their probation period, the same scrutiny has to be used to ensure that they are performing at the maximum level. And certainly you have to be getting a return on investment off the back of that labor. They have to be buying you back time, and hopefully they're actually creating some profit within your business for each project that they're working on. Super important. Okay, so the other thing that we've struggled with in the last 2 years, since COVID started, and right now it is June 2022, is supply chain issues. I mean, all kinds of, I've heard everything, weird and wonderful stories about shit coming from China and, factories being burnt down and all kinds of backlogs. So there's, everywhere I turn, everywhere I talk to, so, someone's having massive struggles with getting product on site. And I think, I think if you are working fixed price contracts, you've got to make sure that any kind of correspondence that comes in, I would urge you to do this. If you get a call from a hardware company today, or your hardware rep or your tile rep or anything like that, and you know that's going to have the implication on your business, is going to create a delay, you've got to get that in writing from that supplier or that subcontractor even, because sometimes the subs are supplying, fixtures and fittings and items and components, but you've got to get that in an email format from that said supplier or subcontractor, and you've got to get that into a change order. A no-cost builder-generated change order that says, based on this correspondence had with XYZ supplier, we now need to extend your contract. Now, even if you are on cost plus, you still should have a change order process, and you must notify clients the minute you understand that there is a delay that's going to compromise your outcome or your deadline or your completion date. You've got to communicate. So communication all the way through everything I'm talking about today. Your ability to communicate, or your ability to, communicate with the person that's giving you the bad news, and then your ability to then convey that information to the stakeholders like clients. That is the art of the game. You've really got to understand that communication is everything, and your ability to then mitigate some of that challenge is the other part. You can't just keep telling clients, "Well, I'm having trouble. Tell them you're having trouble, and this is going to add time to the deadline or the completion date. But then in the background, you've got to go, right, here's the problem. What's going to be the solution to said problem? You have to be absolutely military in your approach. That doesn't mean you go and be an arsehole to everybody. But at the end of the day, you have to assess it quickly, competently, and come up with an efficient solution to some of these challenges, or all these challenges, if you want to maintain and stay in business. And I think there's a huge percentage of builders or building companies that don't last 5 years. And so it's for real, So if you want to succeed, I don't care whether you like it or not, you're going to have to do it. Okay. If you want to just nonchalantly carry on with your life and think that it's all going to be blue skies and bloody lollipops, you're friggin' dreaming. Because at some point there's going to be a day of reckoning, and you will find yourself in a corner with no option. So fix it up front, or have it dealt to you down the track in a very nasty manner, one that you're not going to enjoy, and one that I would never wish on anybody. Failure of a business is not enjoyable, and so please just do everything you can up front to mitigate some of these challenges. Okay, so the other thing is subcontractors. It'd be nice to think that we all have a network of subcontractors that are completely reliable, full of integrity, and do everything they say they're going to do. They're just like you, trying to run a business. They've been trained as a practitioner to plumb, to do electrical, to do tile setting, to do drywall, mudding and taping, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the case may be, they are like you, have never been trained in the art of business management. So not only are you trying to develop your business and learn business management skills, but you've also dealing with a raft of other subcontractors, essentially tradespeople, who don't have any more of an idea about business management and client relations than what you do. And so what that does is it compounds your challenge. So you need to apply some empathy and some understanding. And in some cases, maybe you've got to actually educate based on the little bit that you've learned. You might need to say to them, look, Bill, you're a great mudder and taper or a great tile setter, but you can't go days on end without responding to my text message. You can't go days on end without taking my phone calls. I need some communication. If you can't do that, Bill, then I will have to find someone that's going to be able to communicate at a higher level than what you're currently doing. Can you help me out with that? That's essentially what I have to do. Because remember, if you don't have that conversation, you're going to have to live with a Bill who lets you down, who leaves you hanging. That now puts pressure back on you, which means now you're probably not serving your clients at the highest level, and you're stuck in the middle because you've got an unhappy client and you've got a tradesperson that's not working with you at the level that you expect him or her to be working with you at. So these are the things you should be thinking about. I'm not providing you with solutions today. That's not what I'm doing. I am highlighting the pitfalls or the potholes or some of the challenges. And you might be sitting there going through this checklist going, yep, I've got supply chain issues. Yep, I've got, my fixed expenses are out of control. Yep, my estimating has been off, on a couple of projects, and I know that's cost me money. You've just got to be aware of where you're losing and get better. You've got to plug those holes. If you don't, the ship will sink. It will take on so much water, you won't be able to remedy the problem. So ensure that you're thinking straight. And this is why if you've got systems and you've got methodologies behind your communication processes with subs and suppliers and clients, that means that you're keeping things organized. Once the business gets so far beyond you as a person, your emotions are going to go up because you're going to feel the pressure so much that then now your ability to make good decisions goes down. You can't be high emotion and great decision-making capability. It just does not happen. There is something in the brain that says, when I'm emotional, I'm going to be erratic and I'm not going to be able to think straight to make decisions. And we've talked about that before, in the fact that you go, gee, I don't know why I did that. That's not like me. I'll tell you why, because your emotions were up and your ability to make good decisions was down. So that might be your takeaway for today, and it really does underpin everything that we're trying to allude to today. So subcontractors have to be managed. Anyone that says to me, Max, just trust me, immediately I distrust them. It just means that's a little wall they're putting up because I'm putting too much pressure on that situation, which is valid and has merit, and I would like answers to that. And I would like an increase in performance, but the only defense they have is, Max, just trust me, and that's not good enough. And I don't think it's good enough. You may think it is, and you may have an opinion on that, but certainly I don't. I can't rely on that. I can't. I haven't got any room. I'm dealing with so many departments within my business, as it relates to, managing my estimates, managing my fixed price, managing my, supply chain issues, managing my recruitment processes, that I haven't got time to trust. I need to know categorically what you're going to do. And certainly going back to recruitment, guys, if your best guy or your perceived best guy keeps letting you down, you need to have had some sort of process whereby you've got written warnings in place. To make it clear that you're serious and you mean business. And even if he's your best performer, in some areas, if he's letting you down as it relates to communication, or he's, being a little bit nonchalant with regards to his role in the business, then it's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead. So go find somebody else new. And of course, that then leads me to, what's your recruitment process? What are you using to get inquiries for recruitment? What is the checklist, the recruitment checklist that you're going through? What are the things that you're trying to identify? Because it's two things I've said before that are going to help you build a business. Your ability to recruit good talent, and I say talent, not staff, but talent, people that are actually enjoy what they're doing and they're committed to the business at some level, and your ability to develop and maintain a very good positive culture within your business. Because it has such a massive influence in the bottom line, it could make or break your business. So those two things, your ability to recruit good talent and the ability to provide or produce or maintain a good company culture within that business, and that means everyone is really committed to the end goal, all going in the same direction. I think the other thing that can give you all kinds of challenges, and this may actually, present you with a challenge, depending, probably more projects you get going. If you are such a great operator, and I suspect many of you are, that what you won't have trouble is actually getting work, signing up work. And so all of a sudden what you can find is that you've got such a desire to keep a lot of people happy, you actually don't structure your project starts. You don't give them what we call separation. And I know another air traffic control, thing is that they've got to have 2 miles between aircraft. There has to be that level of separation to avoid an accident. So, for you as a builder, you've got to have a large amount or an appropriate amount of separation between your starts to ensure that perhaps your completion dates don't all end up in the same week, because that would be a tragedy, because, wrapping up and doing a practical completion walkthrough all in the same week with 3 or 4 clients is just going to be, that's going to be overwhelming. So try and avoid that. So that's project management, project management systems as it relates to your ordering. Like I said, if you've got 8 projects or 6 projects on the go, how are you tracking cost? What are your back costing systems? What are your purchasing systems? Have you got guys that are authorized to make purchases? Is there ways and means that you can ensure that the guys aren't going down and purchasing, $20 worth of, adhesive here, in the morning, and then at lunchtime they nick down there and they grab another $50 worth of screws, and then they go down in the afternoon again. Like, you've got to organize, your procurement process that complements your project management, which ultimately complements your budget within that project. Because if you've got, $400 worth of material and you're spending, 4 hours for one guy on one day to go and pick that shit up, that that's eating into your gross profit. You're not covering that expense. You may have had a delivery for those things, but now you've got one guy doing three pickups in one day, and it's just really bad management. So project management too, I think you've got to prioritize. You've got to make sure that you group your shots, your communication, your documentation within the project. In other words, you've got to make sure that suppliers aren't just, that you keep them accountable. So if they've given you a quote, you've issued a purchase order, then they stick with that. They'll lock that in. You want to make sure that if you got quotes 6 months ago, especially in, today's time, that, really 6 months ago, the prices that were quoted aren't going to be there. That you don't give quotes to clients. For us, the expiry date on quotes is between 7 and 14 days, depending on the size of the project. So forget about 6 months down the track. I mean, if you want to go to contract now, and we started talking about this 6 months ago, the price is up 8% or 12%. It's ridiculous. So, it's too late once you're under construction, and all of a sudden you've realized that, I'm spending 30% more on lumber. I mean, you're under contract, or you're on a cost plus, and all of a sudden, the client said, look, I've got $500,000 to spend on this renovation, and you're 3/4 of the way, you're halfway through it, and you've spent 3/4 of the budget. You're going to blow through that $500,000 ceiling. And I'm telling you, the tension now, the tension now is tangible. You can taste it, because the clients are pissed. You've told them $500,000, and you're looking at your situation going, how is it that I end up, halfway through this project and I've already spent, $400,000? What did I miss? And so the relationship between you and the client now is on tenterhooks, man. And if you've got 3 or 4 of those clients, you've got yourself a hell of a battle. I think project management, I think if my next thing would be is deadlines. If you've given a sort of an open-ended deadline, if you've moved that deadline 2 or 3 times on a cost-plus arrangement, or if you're on one of our fixed-price contracts and you've, categorized that communication from a supplier and you've kept moving that back, what you're going to find is clients are just going to run out of patience. Unfortunately, you've got to finish the project. So you have to understand that, the clients have a right at some level. It certainly doesn't make your job any easier. So, you've got to understand, you're like, right, how do I navigate my way through this? And this is why you've got to keep your emotions in check, so your ability to make good decisions is right up there. So, if you've got half a dozen projects, you might have half a dozen projects which are all delayed off the back of supply chain issues. You've got a skeleton team to do the work. You might need to talk to 5 clients and say, look, I have now got to finish all of these in order of priority. And I've got to start with XYZ job, in XYZ location first. That's going to take me about 30 days to wrap up. So now, if you try and make all of those clients happy simultaneously, my guess is, without some really miraculous sort of happening, you're going to fail. You're going to fail actually right across the board. You're better off pissing 5 clients off temporarily and getting one job finished. Put all of your resources into one job. Now, this is my opinion. So if you think you can rock and roll differently, fill your boots, knock yourself out. You do you. I'm just giving you what I think, what I would do in a situation whereby I had half a dozen pissed off clients with overruns on budgets perhaps and overruns on times and deadlines. This is how I would manage it. I have to pay attention with the crew that I've got on one job at a time, bring that to a point where I can't go ahead maybe because I've got materials, jump to the next one, but only ever work on 2 at a time and just try and trade your way out. That is it. You're trying to save your business and probably save your life, and it's super important that you manage the process, because if you take your hands off the wheel, then now you have a business by default, not a business by design, and it will be a tragic experience. So guys and girls, really be very vigilant as it relates to the management of your business. And of course, in the midst of it all, you've got client demands, which can pretty much start from, the time you sign the contract right through, the process. And, some of these clients can be, very unempathetic. They don't actually give a shit that you're having troubles with recruitment. They don't give a shit you're having troubles with supply chain issues. They don't give a shit that, your estimating is up shit creek. They don't care. They signed a contract. They want their job done. That's it. You know why? Because clients have got their own issues to worry about, and they've got their own pressures that they're dealing with. And what you're dealing with is your problem, not their problem. They've agreed to this. We expect it done. Now, in some cases, the failure might be too great and you can't remedy those situations. And that's a super sad day. But you really want to not get that far. You want to actually fix your systems up front, be aware of what's going on, understand that, clients can be super challenging to deal with. That's part of the territory. It just breaks my heart to think that you're dealing with all these challenges and you're estimating really is where the wheels fell off the wagon. You just knew that you were spending over and above, what you'd allowed for. And once that happens, you've got to keep your hands on the wheel because it's only going to get worse if you don't. So I think at the end of the day, your peace of mind and security is the priority. I know that we talk about at Smith & Sons here that clients' peace of mind and security is important, absolutely. But it's certainly, our builders have got to also be aware that their peace of mind and security and their success is also important. We can't have one without the other. Both are important, I've talked to the guys in my cover band that, we've got to have good marketing promotion. And then they say, but we've got to have good music. And I'm like, well, both are as important as each other. You've got to have a good product, but you've also got to have good marketing. Otherwise, nobody knows about your good product. So in business, for you guys and girls, you want to make sure that your clients have got peace of mind and security and that they're enjoying the process and they're getting what they expect and what they paid for. But at the same time, I've got to make sure, I want you to make sure that you have got some peace of mind and security and that you aren't working 8 days a week and that you aren't losing sleep and, that you're doing your job well. And I think, at the end of the day, you've got to know in your heart whether or not you are able to recover. And if you're not, you've got to put your hand up for help. And I don't know what that represents or what that is for you, but I know this, that you need to make sure that you live to fight another day, and that's super important. So, go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. If you've got any questions, about this subject or anything to do with, construction business, hit me up, max@businessforbuilders.ca. We want all of our builders and you guys to be successful, build high-performance building companies, but not. We want you to do it on an equal base. We want you to make sure that you're not just financially in order, but everything else in your life, which really makes you up, is in order as well. Go build a kick-ass business. Have a successful day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.